currency.
The New World Order.
Those are the roots of trouble.
I imagine that right now you're feeling a bit like Alice, tumbling down the rabbit hole. Let me tell you why you're here. You're here because you know something. What you know you can't explain, but you feel it. You felt it your entire life. That there's something wrong with the world. You don't know what it is, but it's there, like a splinter in your mind, driving you mad. It is this feeling that has brought you to me. This is your last chance. After this, there is no turning back. You take the blue pill, the story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to believe. You take the red pill, you stay in Wonderland, and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes. All I'm offering is the truth, nothing more.
For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence, on infiltration instead of invasion, on subversion instead of elections, on intimidation instead of free choice, on guerrillas by night instead of armies by day. It is a system which has conscripted vast human and material resources into the building of a tightly knit, highly efficient machine that combines military, diplomatic, intelligence, economic, scientific, and political operations. Its preparations are concealed, not published. Its mistakes are buried, not headlined. Its dissenters are silenced, not praised. No expenditure is questioned, no rumor is printed, no secret is revealed. But I am asking your help in the tremendous task of informing and alerting the American people.
And now, welcome to another episode of Down the Rabbit Hole. Here's your host from federaljack.com. It's Popeye.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another live edition. It is December 24th, 2012. Christmas Eve, 2012. And for the next 2 hours, we are going to be hanging out and riding out the tail end of Christmas Eve into Christmas morning. And when I sign off tonight, I have a big responsibility. Jimmy X handed me the keys, and he said that when I sign off, I have to unlock this shiny protective glass case. And when I flip the lid off of it, underneath is this big, shiny red button. And I have to hit said shiny red button. And when I do that, it's going to start off the 31 hours of commercial-free broadcasting here, going live from midnight until 7 a.m. December 26th. So all day, starting at midnight, as soon as I get off, going all day through Christmas, all tomorrow night, past midnight, all the way in 7 o'clock in the morning when the morning crew starts their live shows on the 26th. A bunch of special broadcasts. You're going to hear a bunch of different Orion hosts get together for a Christmas special, a bunch of other stuff that we pulled audio together. You're going to hear commercial-free, uninterrupted, the audio of Innocence Betrayed, the true story of gun control. You want to hear what really happens when guns are taken away from people? Tune in tomorrow. You'll hear commercial-free. And when I say commercial-free, there will be no commercials. You will literally just hear station identifiers like you did on Thanksgiving. So big kudos and thank you to Jimmy X for cutting out commercials for 31 hours. So it just goes to show you that Jimmy isn't in it for the money, as some would have you believe. Because if he was, he obviously wouldn't cut out commercials for well over a 24-hour period. And he is. He's doing it just as a special way of saying thanks to everybody that's helped Orion grow this year. We appreciate everybody tuning in and taking the time out of their lives to make us a part of their family, your family, your lives, bringing us into your living room, your car, your phone, wherever your computer, however you listen to us. And we appreciate it. So we try to give back, on a holiday when we have a special chance, we have an open slot of time. We try to give back. We want to say thank you very much to everybody. So make sure you tune in. Just, turn on Orion, leave it on, let it play all day in the background, and you'll hear 31 hours of commercial-free broadcasts. All right, there's a few things I want to go over tonight. And the first thing, and this is kind of a little joke, but this is for one of the listeners, Mark, you know who you are. I told him right off the bat that I would give him a conspiracy about Santa Claus tonight. He said, are we going to hear a conspiracy about Santa Claus tonight, Popeye? And I said, okay, I'll give you one. How come NORAD can track Santa, but they can't track 4 flights on 9/11? Let that one sink in. There's your conspiracy about Santa Claus for this evening. Okay. There's a few other things I want to get into. We're going to talk about the gun control thing. I mean, I know we're going to be talking about this more in the future, and I've kind of beat it up this week, as well as the Freedom Link crew. Those guys did a phenomenal job covering the gun control agenda and the scumbaggery that's going on. Well done, boys. And, I don't want to say we've been harping on it because that makes it sound like it's not an important issue, and it is. And I will cover it a bit tonight, but there's a few other things I want to go over. One thing I'm going to do is I played an audio clip last night. For those of you that don't know, I covered for Holland van de Nieuwenhof last night, and I had totally skipped my mind to let the listeners of my broadcast know earlier in the day that I'd be covering his show later on last night. But there was a clip that I'd wanted to play on the broadcast on my show yesterday afternoon, and I didn't get a chance to, and I played it last night, and I realized... once I got off air, I was like, okay, cool. In your head, when you do radio, you're like, oh, I broadcast that clip, cool. But I realized today that it wasn't on my show. So I'm going to rebroadcast the full clip in its entirety here tonight. And because of my different break schedule, I won't have to worry about letting it go full length and interrupting it. Last night I had to interrupt it. And I'd rather you hear the clip in its entirety, because that way sometimes when you're listening to a clip and you get interrupted by a commercial break or something like that, or if I interrupt it to rant on something, you lose the full context of the speech or what's being said. So I'm gonna give up 11 minutes tonight to play that clip. And there's a few other things I want to go over. By the way, for the readers, in case you want to go check out a new article exclusive by Fritz Springmeier, he emailed it to me and I posted it up at federaljack.com. The title is, it's under featured stories, second one up from the bottom. Media story about Clackaman's town center shooter riddled with holes. That was the other mass shooting that happened the day before. The one that you don't really, they bring up, but you're really not hearing about, the one at the mall. And that's partially because a guy with a concealed weapons permit was able to confront the shooter, and then the shooting stopped after he confronted the shooter. So people can argue whether or not he actually had an effect, but the fact remains that the shooter was shooting. Guy pops out with gun. Shooter sees there is another armed person in the mall and retreats and stopped shooting people. So they don't, they're not really talking about that. But Fritz goes over it from a different angle, and it's interesting. I haven't. It's been so hectic with all the craziness that's going on. I haven't been able to look into. I haven't had the time to look into either of those two shootings, the shootings themselves, into as much detail as I would like. And Fritz did a pretty good job with his breakdown. And I wouldn't discount anything. Even with the school shooting, I wouldn't discount anything. Just I'm trying to follow the facts. I don't want to say it is something if it's not. But neither one of them, the shootings themselves, I think have been torn apart properly. And I'm not talking about claiming that there were, it's all a movie set and all that other horse crap. I'm talking about a real, just like we did with Aurora, just like we did with the Sikh temple shooting and everything else. But again, like I talked about with Johnny yesterday, this is such a big thing, especially with the shooting with the kids. You can't, one person can't do a proper investigation. I don't care who you are. And unless you have a crew of 50 or 60 people dedicated to it, you're not going to do a proper investigation into this. I think if a bunch of different alternative media outlets come together, we can do it proper justice, and then we can spread the information, working with each other. And this isn't about egos, right? Little kids got killed. So whether or not this kid was just some insane, disturbed, if maybe evil, like Larry Pratt said, young man who lost it, and unfortunately those kids just, for whatever reason, this guy saw them as part of the problem for whatever reason. Or it is a false flag event. It's one of the two, right? So we do need to look into it, and either way we need to, we could, if we all got together, I think we could look into it and do it justice and tear it apart and then disseminate the information accordingly, whether or not it shows conspiracy or not. And again, let's get something straight. When people are like, well, why do you not want to, believe that it's a conspiracy? Well, I'm not saying they don't want to believe it. It's just the evidence in this case, although there is some really shady things, I just don't see the overwhelming evidence saying, yes, it's a government orchestrated event this time, like some of the other ones were. Some of the other ones, there's, more than enough evidence, screaming right in your face. This one, a lot of the evidence that people have said is the smoking gun evidence is disinfo or has been proven that, there's stuff, there's part of it, I guess, that either debunks it or whatever, and that's not getting talked about. As I said, the thing with that Sheila Aliens did, where she put a video up, and for those of you that don't know, she's a YouTuber. And she did a video, I've talked about this, where one of the guys that they said was a possible second gunman. And I'm not saying there wasn't a possible second gunman. I'm just saying one of the individuals that was thought to be a second gunman at first turned out later to be a father of one of the children, and he was released. So, and it wasn't just a story. There was enough information between the police recordings and everything else, and what was actually printed, I think it was the LA Times. There was an LA Times article about it. So, and maybe it's not true. Maybe they put it out there to throw people off the trail. I mean, they do that. So who knows? Maybe it is garbage, right? But the point is, some of this stuff, there's enough evidence to at least say, okay, maybe this has been. You put this to the side and let's stay focused on what doesn't have any answers. There's a lot of stuff that the answers that are given are garbage. Movie set, faked, this, that, and then that makes the alternative community, that gives us a black eye, because now people that maybe are just waking up or appalled at the level of the horrific I guess barbarism. I don't know what to call shooting little kids. I mean, that's just horrific. But these people that would be appalled at it, and then they see you saying, "Oh, it's a movie set," but that's just going to piss them off even further, especially in the high emotional state. So one has to wonder if that stuff is being put out there to help stir the pot, because they want to keep everybody emotional. That's the whole point, is to keep everybody upset and pissed off and on their toes. And everybody's afraid right now. I mean, there's people that own guns turning their guns in, and they're saying, well, it's just sitting around in a drawer, and I was afraid of it. Now's the time. It's time to turn it in. It's the right thing to do as a responsible citizen. I just want to punch people in the face that say that. It's the right thing to do as a responsible citizen. Lemming. Is sticking your head in the microwave and turning it on the responsible thing to do, too? I mean, anybody, the people that have been lined up throughout the world, not just in one country in particular, but throughout the world, the people that have been lined up in front of, mass burial pits and shot in the head, kneeling right on the edge of the pit to make the job of the executioner that much easier. Hello? Do you think maybe they thought that the government at one point was going to take care of them and make them safer? I'm telling you, if you think that the government's going to protect you when you can give your guns up, and it's time to give your guns up. Popeye, don't you believe in a utopian society? You know what? I've told you before. I totally totally could be down with everybody getting along and every country on the planet getting along, nobody killing each other, mankind not effing one another over. We actually care about each other. We actually try to make humanity better. We try to evolve as humanity. We may try to make the planet a better place. We can explore the stars and the ocean. I am totally down with that, okay? Totally down with that. Unfortunately, that's not what this is about. And the people being brainwashed today that think that, well, if you give up your guns, we'll create that utopian society. That's what we're trying to do. No, you idiots. You have no idea what's going on. See, maybe once everyone evolves, completely, humanity evolves in the future, we could do that. But right now you can't do that because somebody still wants to screw over somebody else. Somebody still wants to be in charge of somebody else, right? There's still people out there, no matter what, you give them a little bit of power and it goes to their head. I mean, look in your own personal lives. How many times in your own personal life does your boss at your job, he gets a little bit of power and it goes to their head? And he'll start acting like, a little dictator inside that store. It can make people's lives miserable, fire people, whatever, right? A little bit of power goes to people's heads. So we need to evolve as a species before we can even start to contemplate this stuff. That's part of the problem. Part of the evolution is sitting back and looking at everything and starting to maybe ponder things. And yes, do we maybe need to kill one another? No. Wouldn't it be cool if we didn't need guns? That would be an awesome world where we didn't need guns. Unfortunately, that's not the world that we live in today. And if you think that you're going to be safer by giving up your only means of self-defense, the one thing that is the great equalizer. What's the old saying? God created man, but Sam Colt made all men equal. Right? I mean, think about it. It doesn't matter if you're 4'2" and 90 pounds, right? And you're 80 years old, little old lady, and you have a walker, and you're about to be mugged by a 6'4", 230-pound, 20-year-old male kid, right? It doesn't matter, because if that old lady has a 45 or even a 38 or a 380, some hydro shocks in it, and she lets fly with that thing, pop, 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 guess what? He ain't going to be able to mug her. Dead is dead. It's the great equalizer. And I'm not saying that people need to be shot. No, again, it would be great to live in a world where we didn't have to have guns. We didn't have to worry about that. Okay? I'm all for that world. Let's build let's take what we have today and build towards that and work towards that society. I'm all for that. Let's go for it. But the reality of the situation is where we're at right now is not that place. Where we're at right now is a very different place. It's like the exact opposite of that place. So yeah, you do need guns right now. In the future, wouldn't it be nice not to need them? Yeah, sure. It'd be awesome to be able to leave your doors unlocked again. It'd be awesome to be able to not have to lock your car doors, not worry about people stealing your car. Right? It'd be awesome to, know that people would do things because it was the right thing to do. Again, unfortunately, we don't live in that utopian, perfect world yet. I'm not saying it's not possible, ladies and gentlemen. Let's not get confused. The possibility is there, and we can do it, but we do not live there right now. Okay? I've witnessed things with my own eyes that show me that. And I still try to keep my humanity. I've often said a responsible gun owner, just because you have a gun doesn't mean you have to walk around, I'm going to shoot this guy, I'm going to shoot that guy. I've talked about how I've had to draw my weapon before. I talked about the story about the kid in the Clackamas Town Mall. I talked about how it's already, he was interviewed, it's been on the news. He drew down, and he even said, I was about to, squeeze the trigger, and he had the kid dead to rights. The kid was dicking with the AR. It was jammed. He was smacking the side of the gun trying to get it to unjam because he doesn't know how to clear a jam on a gun, and that one in particular. and he's smacking the side of the weapon, trying to clear it. This kid was already drawn down and had his sights on him. And he said, I had him. I targeted him right on his head. My sight was resting right on his head. He said my finger was starting to squeeze. He was about to fire off a round. Another 2 seconds, round would have been fired out of that chamber, and more than likely, that kid's noodle would have been ripped open like a ripe watermelon. But the kid that was holding the gun, the concealed weapons permit holder, as he squeezed the trigger, he said, I got tunnel vision, and all I saw was the guy's head and my sight. And then his eye noticed something move behind the shooter's head, and he realized there were people behind the guy hiding out in a store. And from his angle, if he missed at all, he was going to hit those people. Now, what would the mainstream media tell you? If you have a gun, it's going to turn into an effing gunfight, Popeye. You're going to be shooting all over the place. It's going to be like in the movies, and there's going to be innocents being shot all over the place. Well, apparently this kid just proved that whole argument null and void. Because here you have a concealed weapons holder who admitted that he got what happens to all shooters first time they go through this. Anybody that tells you, I never had that, okay. He got tunnel vision. And he realized what was happening, and he was able to focus beyond it, and that's when he realized that he didn't have a clear shot. Always know your target. Always be aware of your target. Know that you have a clean target and that there's nothing behind it. That's the essence of a good shooter. And that kid did exactly that. He did exactly that. That is a good shooter. That's the reality of drawing your weapon, by the way. That's the other side of this coin here. A lot of people who have weapons overestimate their ability to protect themselves. It does not go down like it does in the movies, ladies and gentlemen. It's very different. Your adrenaline is going. Your hands are shaking because you have so much adrenaline pumping through you. You have to learn how to control and breathe and do all that through that and still be able to think. It's more complicated than you would think. We're going to break. We'll be back in a few minutes. Don't go anywhere. We are back, ladies and gentlemen. And before I get into anything, I want to give a plug out really quick. And I'm not being paid for this. I'm doing it because I want to plug these guys. And I'll give you a little background information really quick. And you know, full disclosure. I was introduced to this new company called Magical Butter. The name of the website's called magicalbutter.com. And no, they don't make butter and sell it or anything like that. It's a kitchen appliance. But it's created so that it was created by a scientist and a chemist. And it was created to infuse whatever your natural herbs you use. And it's not made specifically for cannabis and for potheads to the ignorant people that would be out there and go, oh, this is just some sort of pot, getting high device. No. It's for any type of herbs or anything that you want to use and you want to get the nutrients out of. These guys figured out a way to infuse all of it into oils like coconut oil or butter, which then you can cook with, and you can put that in other foods, so it makes it functional. Now, if you do live in a state where cannabis is legal, like Washington State or Colorado, then try it and see how it works. But it does oil, it does butters. Anyway, I entered a contest to try to win one of these things, on a whim. Didn't think I was going to win, and I won. Now, there ended up being, I guess there were two people. There was two of us that ended up winning, not just one of us. And he made the guy that owns the place made a wrong call or whatever, and he had originally announced he gave me the win, and I guess somebody else had beat me out, and he didn't realize it. So to be fair, the guy gave away. He said, "Well, I'll just announce that there's two winners." So he goes, and the guy was just a class act about it. So that's what made me want to just bring this up, was the way the guy handled the whole situation. He wasn't like, oh, well, too bad, you're screwed to the other guy, and he wasn't a dick to me. The guy just said, oh, no biggie, man. I'll just, give out 2 machines today. It's Christmas Eve. Everybody can be happy. Merry Christmas, I mean, that's a class act. So, if you're into health and you're into juicing and all that stuff, and you want to look into infusing the nutrients from whatever herbs that you want to use into butters or something like coconut oil or something like that, which, again, you can then cook with tons of recipes, anything you use butter on. I mean, anything from toast to cooking chicken or turkey or anything like that. You can literally make your own butter, and in the butter will be all the nutrients. And like I said, I'm sure if you live in Colorado or one of the states where cannabis is legal, I'm sure you could probably use it, because cannabis is a plant, it is an herb, so I'm sure you could use it for that. But that's not what it's not marketed saying that, yes, this is a pot getting high, druggy device. That's not what it's for. It's useful for more than just that. It's got a setting. If you want mushrooms and you want to get the any nutrients out of mushrooms, it's got a setting for oils. It's just amazing. It's a really interesting device. So I looked into it. I thought it was neat, and I entered the contest. Like I said, full disclosure, and I didn't think I was going to win, but whatever. Either way, the guy handled the situation very professionally, and everybody that I've looked into, like I've looked into this thing a little bit and done some research on it, and I'm interested enough that I'm actually going to have one of the owners of the company on. I'm going to interview him, and I'll either have him on live for a couple segments, or I'll interview him and then air it. But I want to get into it with him about all the different things it is good for, and what got him into it and everything else. I want to get a little background on it. You know how I am about pushing health and natural stuff over big pharma. And one of the biggest reasons I like these guys is their tagline is eat to treat, so you don't have to take pills. Eat to treat. I mean, that's like the greatest tagline. Eat to treat. I like that. That's something I can get behind. And I like natural homeopathic well, I don't even want to say medications, but medicine, whatever you want to call it, over big pharma garbage, which doesn't work, but causes more problems. Usually ends up requiring you to take a secondary medication to deal with all the secondary problems. It's just ridiculous. Something like this little device could help, change people's lives. So I can get behind it, and I like the way these guys. I like their whole philosophy. It's not really about making money. They're trying to help people, and I like that, and I respect that. So check out magicalbutter.com, and I look forward to speaking. I've already talked to one of the people over there via message back and forth a few times about doing an interview a few days ago. So I'm looking forward in the future talking to them and having them on to discuss their device and talking about anything they know about homeopathic remedies or natural stuff, and what maybe they have an idea about grassroots where people share different recipes. Hey, this helped me with my pain, you should try this, or this helped me with this problem. I have this debilitating disease and I started using the device, and I use this herb or that herb, and maybe I mix it with butter or coconut oil or whatever, and then I cook with it, and this is a recipe that I use, and it helps me, and my doctors are even amazed. I mean, the stories are out there. You'd be surprised. So and if you go to their website, magicalbutter.com, you'll see that's what they're trying to do, is they're trying to get people to have the devices and then come up with their own different recipes and stuff and share it with other people so that they can help. And, hey, man, this worked for me. I have chronic pain, whatever. I mean, that's awesome. That's the way to solve a problem. And, again, that's something I can get behind, because this is a solution-oriented thing. This isn't, creating another law or trying to make money off of crap or off of a problem pushing crap. This is a real solution and something that could help people. And you've heard me talk about Rick Simpson. You've heard me push homeopathic methods before, and if you could do it safely in your kitchen, this thing takes away, it does it all safe for you. Takes away the worry about burning your kitchen down with it. So, again, the reason why I wanted to give them that long of a plug and I wanted to just talk about the device in general is because I really believe in it. I think it's something, if you can help people like that, and again, from doing my research and seeing, just having a witnessing personally how the company and the people behind the company handle their business so far, I'm impressed. And they're brand new. They just recently opened within the past, I guess, month or two. So kudos, guys, over at magicalbutter.com. Everybody go check them out. And if you're into natural, healthy stuff, check it out. It's a kitchen appliance that could maybe revolutionize your life and, change things for the better. Who knows? Go check it out. All right. I want to play this clip for you that I was talking about earlier. I played it last night when I was covering Holland over on Critical Defense Radio. And I was covering for Holland Van Nieuwenhof, and I played the clip, but I didn't get a chance to play it yesterday for the listeners of my broadcast. And I think it's really important. You've often heard me discuss about how Alan Watt has talked about, and it's not just him. I mean, there's other people that have pointed out, but I use him as a reference point, how Alan Watt has talked about how they use television and they use sports stadiums and organized sports and stuff like the NFL, the NBA, and all that crap to control people and to herd them like sheep, basically. Well, I found the clip that it encompasses pretty much everything I've talked about, but you have Alan Watt laying it out, and you'll hear Alex Jones speak, I don't know, for like 30 seconds or a minute of the entire, out of the entire clip, but you'll mainly hear Alan Watt, and it's not that that monotone sound when the way he does his radio show. A lot of that has to do with the audio and him being on a telephone and stuff. But he sounds clear, and he's right to the point, and he explains everything that I've talked about better than me. Babbling on about it for 20 minutes. I'd rather let you hear it right from the horse's mouth. So I've been wanting to play this clip for you, and I dug it out the other day, and I found it. I was like, woohoo! So here you go. Check it out. How television and sports and all that stuff are used to control society.
Bringing entertainment to thousands of people. Through its magic, we are able to enjoy a combination of the radio, motion pictures, and the stage, right in the comfort of our own homes. Simply by pushing a button and turning a dial. These cells with their electrical charges are scanned by a stream of electrons, completing 30 pictures a second. Compare that crude picture with these of today, and you can judge for yourself how far along the road to perfection television has traveled.
Most people still today think that all entertainment to do with movies, drama, is therefore nothing more than their entertainment. It never ever was that case.
Of course, television can't perform such miracles as this, yet. But perhaps there's no harm wishing that it could.
The greatest social messages are promoted through movies and drama, high drama, through the fixation of emotive sequences, emotional sequences, not logical, factual sequences, but pushing points across in an emotional way which register and fix in the mind. So emotional content is very, very important, rather than going through an actual discussion or an argument using logic and facts. There's no debates. And when you're being downloaded through fiction, your guard is down. The sensor part of your brain is not in action. It isn't saying, yes, I agree with this, I disagree with that, as you would in a debate or a lecture. You're actually in an alpha state, being completely downloaded with new ideas.
Throughout history, social engineers have refined techniques designed to control large populations.
About 100 years ago, this big organization with many branches, they wanted to rule the world, basically, using Britain as a nucleus of a system, an embryo, which also was going to be joined with the US under the Anglo-American establishment. wrote about the kind of culture and the changes of culture over a 100-year period that they would actually design, implement, and bring in. And H.G. Wells talked about it too. He talked about arenas. He says arenas could be put up across the world for sports, for instance. Now, at that time, sports was something that children, school children were into. Adults became adults and got onto adult things. So it was unimaginable at the time that people could actually believe that there was even a need for adult sports and entertainment, never mind having arenas built across the world. But he said we can do this and foist basically a sports culture for the males. Using a tribal system, we're all tribal to an extent. That's why we even bother to vote for a tribal leader. This is well understood. That's why we're supplied with these leaders. And because the average man was to become more disengaged from his own destiny, as the expert class arose, it was decided that the males would get their outlet, basically, gradually becoming helpless as males through sports. Therefore, they'd have a tribal team they could identify with. They could cheer them on as they were winning. In their own personal lives, they were getting nowhere. They were getting disenfranchised, in a sense, as experts took over decision-making for them in all kinds of fields. So this was psychology at use, planned before they even implemented the sports. When radio came along, of course, they used that to the maximum. Sports for the men, soaps basically for the women. And then in came television, as I say, with its alpha state, its hypnotic state. And sure enough, around the 1960s, really, 50s and 60s, it took off. It really, really took off. And men became glued on Saturday nights to the sports shows.
Number 6, brilliantly.
A culture industry, which is called by its own the culture industry. The Soviet Union had a department called the culture industry. Their actors and directors were called the cultural leaders, because they would, like a computer, people are like computers. All you have to do is keep giving them new updates every so often, and you can change an entire country or a nation or a block of nations who are all getting the same upgrades at the same time along certain paths. Today we call it political correctness. Most people want to belong to their peer group. They want to be the same as everyone else when it comes to opinions. In fact, they judge their own personal sanity by bouncing ideas off their neighbors and friends who will answer back and agree on these same topics in kind. It doesn't matter if the topics or what you're given are facts or utter nonsense, as long as everyone agrees at the same time. You'll say, well, I'm sane, and your friends will all agree because they've had the same information given to them.
But they've been programmed. And I'm sad because I know that it's hard for people like that to take an interest, a serious interest in world affairs, to take a serious interest in what their elected officials are doing. And they're not going to be really inclined to study or discover the deception that's being used against them. And so I'm sad because I see all of that in a flash in my mind as being an indication of how easy it is for the masses to be manipulated.
The scientific dictatorship understands what makes human beings tick. They understand our psychology. They've studied it, and they're using it against us. But the minute the public awakens to the fact that there is an agenda to manipulate them, and the second the public realizes that they are being conditioned and controlled, the establishment begins to lose that edge they've got over people. So all I ask viewers to do is to think for themselves and to study public relations, to study advertising, to study propaganda, and to realize how much of it is out there in their daily lives. And then make the decision for yourself. I just want people to think on their own and to not have their decisions and their thoughts and their ideas pre-packaged and basically downloaded into them.
If it's on TV and a famous face says something, then it must be true. He doesn't have to show you facts or anything else. You've been brought up with these faces. That's why they keep these guys on television into their 70s and 80s. You've grown up with this father figure who's on television every night at 6 o'clock, in your house, in your room, staring right at you. And he's a father figure. Would he tell you a lie? So you naturally never suspect him. And this same man will lead you through new topics. He'll introduce experts on the topics. They'll have a little summary at the end of every talk, and you are now left with the conclusion that's presented to you. You don't arrive at it, it's given to you, and it's good enough for you.
When I was growing up, people were talking on their front porches, neighbors were playing baseball, there were nightly barbecues. You don't see that anymore. We've lost our communities. You drive through neighborhoods, you see the blue glow of television sets. We're losing our humanity. So if you want to rebel against the globalists, the social engineers, start by turning the TV off a few hours a day and actually getting to know your neighbors, getting outside that comfort zone, expanding your horizons. By coming together as communities, by getting to know our neighbors, we defeat the social engineers.
We're programmed today perfectly, just like machines.
Oh my God! This is the best day of my life!
We tie this in with the Brzezinski. Brzezinski said in 2 Ages. Now this guy was way up with the NSA. He's a master geopolitician. He admits he works in 20, 50-year periods to do with geopolitics in other countries. But he said himself, the public will shortly be unable to think or reason for themselves. He was meaning by the form of information that was given to them, the type, the formulas that were in use then in the 1970s. He says, eventually they'll be unable to think or reason for themselves. And eventually, he said, they will expect the media to do all their thinking and reasoning for them. Well, that's happened today. That's why people today can't think outside of the programming from television.
Zbigniew Brzezinski, Obama's main foreign policy advisor, talks about how a cult of personality can be artificially manufactured to influence the masses.
In the first months of my administration, to pull our economy... Oh, goodness. Sorry about that, guys. To pull our economy back from the brink, including the largest and most sweeping economic recovery plan in our nation's history.
We're gullible, but we're also willingly gullible. We want a human being, a big daddy, to come along and make everything right for us. And as long as we believe that, we'll always basically get shafted.
In addition to John, sorry, I just noticed that I jumped the gun here. Go ahead and move it up. I'd already introduced all you guys.
It's the presidential reality show. But when it became an Oprah production, it became slick. You don't have a president, you have an actor. They say that politics is show business for ugly people. You got it.
What am I going to tell the president when I tell him his teleprompter is broken? What will he do then?
There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. As I've said multiple times before, right from the mouth of Alan Watt himself. I couldn't have put it any better myself. Your opinions are formulated for you. The tribal nature of humans is controlled via sports, basketball, baseball, football, soccer, hockey. I could go on and on and on. The greatest gift I could give you for any holiday or any day at all is the truth and the keys to set yourself free from slavery. We'll be right back, ladies and gentlemen, with hour number 2. Don't go anywhere. Ladies and gentlemen, we are back with hour number 2 here on tonight's live edition of Down the Rabbit Hole. I am your host, Popeye from federaljack.com. It is December 24th, 2012, Christmas Eve 2012. This is the second hour of the Christmas Eve broadcast. I have a few pieces of audio I would like to play for you guys and ladies that are listening out there. One of them I played probably about a month ago for you guys, and I know it was right before Thanksgiving. It was I think it was the 21st because it was one of the 2 JFK special editions I did for the 49th anniversary. I think it was the first one on the 21st. I played this audio, and one of the listeners keeps emailing me and asking me to replay it, and I have it posted on Federal Jack, and I've sent the link, but for whatever reason they have issues playing it or whatever. So I promised the person that I said that I would play it on air for him, and I haven't gotten a chance to play it. So tonight I have I'm gonna allot a few minutes to play this audio clip, and it's about Ed Lansdale being in Dealey Plaza on the 22nd. You'll hear, it's Fletcher Prouty talking about it. You'll hear more about it, but I'll get into that because I did promise, via email to one of the listeners who has been going back and forth with me that I would play it for him, and I am a man of my word, so I will hold up my end of the bargain. It'll be my way of my little Christmas gift to you. And thank you for being patient enough, because it's been about 2 weeks ongoing back and forth. He's been emailing me, so it's just been very busy, a lot of things going on, as you all know. So I do appreciate everybody being patient. It is much appreciated, especially when you're a one-man crew doing all this by yourself. All right, I want to get into a few things. I'm going to play that audio. Before I forget, by the way, hello to my nephews and hello to my niece who are listening right now. My niece is listening while she's waiting for Santa. But Jess, Santa's not going to come if you're awake, so you should take a nap. That way Santa can come in, put your presents under the tree. He is a magical guy, so you should go to bed, little one. Mwah, love you. Go to sleep so Santa can put your presents under the tree. All right, moving on. I don't know if this is true or not, but I want to discuss this because I know that I've seen some of the I've seen some like RT and some other news agencies talk about this to a certain extent, but I don't know if this is true or not. On Press TV, they're saying that released FBI documents reveal plans to assassinate Occupy Wall Street activists. I don't know if that's completely accurate. I'll have to look further into that. I know that the FBI was targeting them for surveillance, but I mean, who knows? That look, it wouldn't surprise me. And just because Press TV is an Iranian state-run organization does not mean that they would make this up just to make the United States look bad to push for World War III. Blah. I mean, that's just ridiculous. But it could be that they got bad info from a correspondent here in the United States, which I've seen happen time and time again with certain people that they have on who shall remain nameless because I'll be nice because it's Christmas Eve, but you know who you are. The kings of disinfo, that's all I'll say. So, yeah, we need to look into that and see if the FBI really was targeting to kill any of the activists. I mean, they went after Martin Luther King Jr., right? So who's to say that they wouldn't go after somebody that could possibly really want to do change? I'm not saying that there wasn't bad elements within the Occupy Wall Street groups. We all know there were, but there's bad elements within the Tea Party, too. The Tea Party has been compromised. So putting all that stuff aside, just looking at it as, people going out and trying to, voice their opinion, whether or not you agree with what they're saying or not. If the FBI was targeting them, remember, if you're going to go out and protest stuff, the FBI could be targeting you too. So we need to look into that. That's just something I wanted to throw out there. And the other thing I want to bring up that I noticed earlier today, before I move on, was Al Jazeera is saying gas used in Homs leaves 7 people dead and scores affected. And this is from December 24th, 2012 at 4:07. I don't know if that's 4:07 their time or 4:07 like UAE time or whatever the case may be, but today, Christmas Eve, December 24th, 2012, Al Jazeera is reporting that chemical weapons were used in homes against civilians by the Syrian government. Now, I've talked about this before, as have others, and I've said before that if they come out and they say that the government of Syria is using chemical weapons against its people, they're full of crap. They're full of crap. They're full of crap. I told you I had a military insider connection, whatever you want to call it, information giver, whatever, let me know a couple months back, going back into August now, that almost 4 months ago, that if they say chemical weapons are being used by the Syrian government, it's the rebels using chemical weapons being supplied through the United States military to the rebels. And I'm not the only person that's talked about this. Other people have too. Now you have this. Now, why would it happen on Christmas Eve? What better a day? Not because it's a holy day or this or that or anything else. It's because you're distracted, because you're sitting at home, you're watching the game on TV, whatever, you're sitting there chilling out with your family, you're not paying attention. And that's when they love to pass things like the NDAA or all these other unconstitutional bills and legislation, and they like to sign executive orders, and they like to, pull off false flag events and things when nobody's looking. Okay, if you're paying attention and everything's under scrutiny, it's much harder to get away with things, because remember, the best laid plans of mice and men never go the way that they're supposed to go, right? There's always a screw up here or there. So it's much easier to get away with things like that if nobody's looking, if they're looking elsewhere, if they're distracted. That's why they do, they sign bills or executive orders on a Friday night at 11 o'clock at night. Or in this case, it's Christmas Eve and you see this report. Now, I'm not saying it could be erroneous, whatever. I mean, Al Jazeera, they are controlled by the British government. But let's say that this is a real event. Okay, let's say that there really was chemical weapons used now in Syria. I'm willing to bet that it was not the Syrian government. Of course, they're going to get blamed, and I've said before, how in the hell would the Syrian government benefit in any way, shape, or form from gassing its own people? They've even said it. They've even said it. And the Russians have recently stepped in and taken control of a lot of the chemical weapons in Syria, and saying, look, because they're trying to avoid World War III, because they obviously can see the game that's being played. So if they take that option out of the hands, it's much harder. But here you have this report from Al Jazeera, so who knows? And again, if the Russians have control of the Syrian chemical weapons, and then there's chemical weapons being used on the citizens of Syria, and they're blaming it on the government, but the government doesn't have control of their stuff, the Russian military does, and then obviously the Russian military would not benefit from gassing it. So they're out. Let's take them out of the equation. Who's left? I wonder. Could it be the people that have been accused of doing other things in the past and actually have been caught doing it? The very same people that have been funneling weapons and supplies and stuff to the said rebels. By the way, when you see Lindsey Graham or John McCain or Joe Lieberman, the three warmongering douchebags, when you see them on any of these Sunday morning shows or anything like that, and you see them going around pushing for weapons being sent to some rebel in some country, wherever, guess what? They're already sending the weapons to the country. They're just trying to get you to accept the fact that they're doing it. That's what that is. And then, of course, if they want to ramp it up, maybe they do need, then they have to make it a public thing. But I can guarantee you, by the time they go on Fox News, CNN, or MSNBC, and they do the rounds of the Sunday morning shows where we need to bomb, we need to support the rebels, we need to bomb, we need to support the rebels, by the time they're on TV talking about it, they're already doing it. Just remember that. By the time they're on TV telling you that we should do this, they're already doing it. They're just trying to get you to accept it. They're trying to, they're trying to put it out there so that when it comes out that they are doing it and that it is going on, that you accept it. Just absolutely disgusting, ladies and gentlemen. We cannot allow ourselves to buy into this again. Again. I mean, again. Come on. Libya happened and nobody gives a crap. Oh, well, we're helping people. Really? Look at Libya now. Is it really forward, march? No, it's not. It's backward 20 steps. Good job. Good job. And they know this. Come on. How does bombing the infrastructure of a country back into the Stone Age benefit the civilians and the citizens of that country at all? Answer that question. Oh, you can't, because it's an unanswerable question. It doesn't benefit them. You can't list a benefit from it. The only answer to that question is there is no benefit. Blowing up powdered milk factories that supply the powdered milk to children for nutritional requirements. Yeah. Well, the only thing that does is cause starvation and death of innocent people that have nothing to do with politics. See, that's the reality of things. Iraq. Look at Iraq. Iraq is a perfect example. Oh, Popeye, all Saddam Hussein's weapons of mass destruction are in Syria. Really? The country's in civil war right now, or a fomented civil war, we'll say, or an occupation by rebels that are not really rebels, but more foreign fighters. And I don't see all these supposed Iraqi weapons of mass destruction laying around, right? I mean, there's a lot of fighting going on. By now, they would have been uncovered. I'm sure Syria has their own weapons, but the supposed quote-unquote weapons of mass destruction, where the hell are they? The Iraqi weapons of mass destruction? Oh, that's right. They didn't exist because we blew them all up in 91. And after that, the sanctions and what was left, the inspectors were going in and blowing things up and getting rid of things. Pay no mind any of that. Pay no mind the reality of the situation. Nope, Saddam had weapons of mass destruction in 2003. Keep telling yourself we were justified for invading that country and killing all those people, removing them from the earth forever. Well, I believe in reincarnation. That's great. It's still that time, that person's journey in that instance as that person is gone. How about all the people that we lost in this country? How about all the other countries' soldiers that got involved and were lost? For what? For what? Well, I got cheaper gas. No, you didn't. Idiot. We didn't get any cheaper gas. Gas prices are higher than they were when we invaded Iraq. Remember, we were told that, don't worry, the oil will pay for the invasion. We did not see one red cent. You know who is seeing that oil, though? Yes, I know Dutch Royal Shell and all them. But you know who's seeing the oil coming out of the Middle East? China. The Chinese. How does it make you feel to know that your sons and daughters are dying on foreign battlefields, coming back missing limbs, with PTSD, traumatic brain injury, and more, so that somebody in China can drive their SUV and get cheap gas, just like here in America? Because China is the new America. They're being propped up. A lot of stuff's getting moved over there. A lot of things are going on over there. They're being propped up as the new America. That's the Illuminati, the New World Order, the Dark New World Order. They're propping that. They're what China is becoming. What the United States once was, or America once was. Not the United States, because the United States is the corporation, but what America, or the country of North America, in the United States of America once was. China is, they have all this new technology, new housing and stuff, cars, right? Manufacturing. Although it's garbage, it doesn't mean it's great. But China's getting the oil from the Middle East. People think we get it. I mean, we get some of it, but people think that we're benefiting from it. Well, we need the oil. We're not benefiting anyway. Okay, we're taking our kids and we're throwing them into a friggin' meat grinder. We're taking the future of this country. The future. We're taking the future of this country and we're chucking it into a meat grinder. And for what? Because we believe some garbage, or not we, I don't, but the country, as a whole, many people believe what they've been fed to them. And it's patriotic to, cheerlead the killing and send my kid to go fight. No, don't let your kid join the military. The military is nothing what it used to be. Okay? Nothing at all. It is not about defending your country. It is not about being honorable and defending the Constitution. No, if you want to defend the Constitution, you just be a citizen and defend it. Stand up and do the right thing. Use your freedom of speech. Practice your Second Amendment. Practice all of your amendments. Practice the Bill of Rights. Seriously. Educate others. Talk. Have discussions about politics. Don't be afraid. That's how we get through this. All right? You want the honest truth? That's how we get through this. Don't be afraid to stand up. Oh, they're going to take you. They're going to throw me in a cage. You know what? If you don't stand up, they're going to throw you in a cage, right? Just like with the Second Amendment. If you don't stand up, they're going to take your rights. And now they're using the mass appeal to emotion, and they're trying to brainwash people. And you know what? It makes me want to play that clip of Eric Holder from 1995. You all know the clip I'm talking about. I've played it before. In fact, I'll play it in its entirety. That was a tongue twister. Right now, I'll play it for you. It's about 3.5 minutes. Eric Holder, this is from 1995 when he was the Attorney General under Clinton, right on C-SPAN. And it's January 30th, 1995. I'm looking at the date on the tape right now. January 30th, 1995, Attorney General Eric Holder. We must brainwash people to think differently about guns. Listen what he says. And listen, he talks about an informational campaign with PR and stuff to change and influence the way people think. That's called brainwashing. That's mind control.
I want to have, as part of the gun initiative, though, an informational campaign to really change the hearts and minds of people in Washington, D.C., and in particular our young people. They are saturated in the media and in entertainment, or by the entertainment industry, with violence. And I think too many of our young people, in particular our young men, are fascinated with violence, and in particular fascinated with guns. And what we need to do is change the way in which people think about guns, especially young people, and make it something that's not cool, that it's not acceptable, it's not hip to carry a gun anymore. In the way in which we've changed our attitudes about cigarettes. When I was growing up, people smoked all the time. I mean, both my parents did. But over time, we changed the way in which people thought about smoking. And so now we have people who cower outside of buildings and kind of smoke in private and don't want to admit it. And that's what I think we need to do with guns. Really change the way in which people think about guns. Now, this is not going to be something that's very easy to do because we are, quite frankly, fighting something that appears, every day on television, on the radio, in our popular music, in movies that these kids are exposed to. It will be an effort that will entail things that I'm really not familiar with. I think I'm a pretty good lawyer, but we need to get really innovative, creative things that are going to grab the attention of these kids and change, as I said, the way in which they think about guns. And so what I've asked is that the creative community in Washington, those ad agencies that create these snappy ads and make me buy things that I don't really need, devote that talent in a more constructive way so we can get at the minds of these young people. This informational campaign, I've also called on the newspapers and the television stations to devote to us time and space so that we can get these ads, so we can use these spots, and not to give us 1, 2 o'clock in the morning ads when nobody's watching, but at the time when people, particularly young people, are watching television, so that when they're watching, the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air or Martin or whatever else they watch, and yeah, I watch those things once in a while, so that they'll see these ads and they'll be grabbed by these ads. I've also asked people who have influence over youngsters, entertainers, athletes, to be involved in this program as well. But not only them, community leaders, Jesse Jackson, Mayor Barry, people who have credibility with young people should be on the television, on the radio, as much as we possibly can, and telling these youngsters that it's wrong to carry a gun, and that if you have information about people who are carrying guns, you've got to share that with Chief Thomas and with his people as well. I've also asked the school board to make a part of every day some kind of anti-violence, anti-gun message. Every day, every school, at every level. One thing that I think is clear with young people and with adults as well is that we just have to be repetitive about this. It's not enough to simply have a catchy ad on a Monday and then only do it every Monday. We need to do this every day of the week and just really brainwash people into thinking about guns in a vastly different way. We also want to have a hotline that we will set up and have the number of that hotline that you would just go out there, and that would be something that people would have emblazoned in their minds so that when they see a gun or become familiar about the facts of a gun crime, they would call that hotline and pass that information on.
We have to brainwash people. First of all, any system, and I've said this before and I'll say it again, any system that requires brainwashing you or the use of fear to control you, there's something wrong. There's something wrong with that system. Whatever it is, doesn't matter. Whatever it is. You shouldn't have to be brainwashed, and you should not be fear should not be required to control you. Okay, obviously then there's a problem. Think about that, ladies and gentlemen. We'll be right back.
I see all this potential, and I see it squandered. God damn it, an entire generation pumping gas, waiting tables, slaves with white collars. Advertising has us chasing cars and clothes, working jobs we hate so we can buy shit we don't need. We're the middle children of history, man. No purpose or place. We have no Great War, no Great Depression. Our Great War is a spiritual war. Our Great Depression is our lives. We've all been raised on television to believe that one day we'd all be millionaires and movie gods and rock stars, but we won't. We're slowly learning that fact. And we're very, very pissed off.
That's right. Welcome back for the final segment, ladies and gentlemen, of tonight's edition of Down the Rabbit Hole. It is December 24th, 2012, Christmas Eve. Less than a half hour left, and when I sign off for the evening, I've already unlocked that glass cover I told you about in the beginning of the broadcast, and I've got that big shiny red button sitting next to me, and Jimmy X tells me all I have to do is log off and hit that big red button when I leave, and 31 hours of commercial-free broadcasting. So don't go anywhere. Just leave Orion tuned in, leave it on in the background. There is going to be a ton of different things covered. JFK, 9/11, everything. Everything under the sun. Cannabis, health issues, politics. You're going to hear from all different hosts on this network. Just leave it on. Just turn it on. I know a lot of people turn their entertainment systems on and stuff, so just turn your entertainment system on, although it's not going to be Christmas music. But if you're down to leave it on, then I don't want to boss you around. It is your holiday and your day off. So if you're willing to leave us on or tune in at any given point during the course of the next 31 hours after I sign off tonight, you will hear 31 hours of commercial-free broadcasts here on Orion. So thanks to Jimmy X, thanks to everybody that helped out and participated in putting stuff together for the broadcast, and to the listeners, thank you for making us one of the fastest-growing networks out there in the alternative genre, or whatever you want to call it. I don't even like calling it the alternative genre, but whatever you want to call it. Internet radio, whatever. Talk radio. If it weren't for you people listening, you are an essential part of this. And if it weren't for all of you out there, we wouldn't be as big as we are. and we haven't forgotten that. So that's a big thank you from us to you. All right. As I said earlier, I'm a man of my word, and I want to get this in before I forget. This is the clip. I played this about a month ago during the my JFK assassination 49th anniversary special. And it's a clip from Lena Senek, who actually I've been talking to and working out. I'm not sure if I'm going to interview him during the day, pre-record it, and then air it, or if I'm going to be able to get him on live. But I am going to be able to interview Len, who... he has the entire Colonel Fletcher Prouty archive. Like, he has he is the man to go to talk about Colonel Fletcher Prouty. Plus, Len is smart in his own right, and he knows a lot about the JFK assassination and that whole Cold War era and other things. So I'm looking forward to getting him on. But right now, you're going to hear from Colonel Fletcher Prouty again, talking about, as I said, he's talking about Ed Lansdale being down in Dealey Plaza on November 22nd, 1963, and you're gonna hear a little bit about who Ed Lansdale is and what his background was and why Prouty thinks it's shady and a few other things. And this was because I've had listeners ask me to play this, and I did promise one of the listeners that I would play this for him. So here is my Christmas gift to you. You know who you are. I promised I would play it, so here you go. Colonel L. Fletcher Prouty on Ed Lansdale being in Dealey Plaza on November 22nd, 1963.
Colonel Fletcher Prouty discusses Dealey Plaza, November 22nd, 1963. Colonel Prouty worked in the U.S. military for 23 years, 9 years in the Pentagon from 1955 to 1963. He worked closely with many influential people, including Director of Central Intelligence Allen Dulles, General Victor Krulak, and General Edward Lansdale. Colonel Prouty's work centered on special operations, the support of clandestine activities. While in the Office of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, he worked with the Office of Cover and Deception. He established and was the first head of the focal point office between the Air Force and the CIA, the chief of Team B. Here are observations he made in 1989 regarding photographs taken in Dealey Plaza.
The photographic evidence as a total at that time is absolutely amazing. What various researchers have done is take all these photographs and place them in a time frame so that you can see where people standing in one place and there's the same person over here and other ones, and begin to identify some of these people. So we've worked very hard on looking carefully at who is in these pictures. There are several of them that are really outstanding, and one of the most amazing is this group of these three men who the news story said had been removed from a boxcar in a rail yard right in back of Dealey Plaza, and were being led from that boxcar by police to the sheriff's office, and that's the end of it. The trail ends. They weren't booked. There's no record of them at all. Well, let's look at the pictures. The pictures do show three men that somebody have called tramps. Well, they got new shoes on. They are not tramps. The police that are leading them, one in front and one in back. One of them has very clearly a hearing device in his ear. And furthermore, the Dallas police don't lead prisoners into the sheriff's office. The police and the sheriff's office work together, but their jobs are entirely different. And in a sense, taking prisoners to the sheriff's office is the last place the police would take any prisoners. So all that part of it is very questionable. So when researchers had arrived at that point, one of them came to me one day and said, look, of all the pictures we've studied, this little episode of these men being marched right across in front of the school book depository building where Oswald was supposed to have been, and across the street by Dealey Plaza where the president's car had just gone, into the sheriff's office. There's something wrong about these pictures. So we looked at them very carefully. And in the very first picture, in addition to the two policemen and the three tramps, as they're called, is another man. And he's walking in the other direction. But the thing about it is, so that his back is more or less to, or his side and his back is more or less to the photographer rather than face forward. There's something about it is how Is it possible that anyone at Dealey Plaza that day, and here these men are probably being marched across there 5 minutes after the president was killed. Everybody was running around. People were excited. Sirens were blowing. And here's this man in a business suit, just as casually walking along. He doesn't even turn. He's not looking at anybody, just walking past. And he happens to be standing by these men as they're being marched. The least he would be doing is looking at these prisoners or looking at the policemen. You know, anybody would, especially at that time. This man's looking at nobody. And I recognized immediately that that man is General Lansdale. Now, Lansdale is a very interesting figure in the Kennedy era. And I know Lansdale. I worked with him off and on from about 1952 to 1963. So he retired. Now, this is interesting. He retired from the Air Force on October 31st, 1963. Well, of course, the picture could have been 100 other people, and I could be wrong, but I know him very well. Then I looked at the tramps themselves, and there's this strange little eye catch between this man and the first tramp coming by. In other words, the first tramp, instead of being seriously concerned about the fact that he may be charged with the murder of the president, is smiling. And the second tramp has a sort of a quizzical little look, and you can tell that he has looked at this man walking by, and he has the same kind of approach, you know, as though he's just been reassured everything's all right. The third man happens to be in back from the camera's point of view, and you don't see him at all. But that little bit of expression is saying an awful lot at that moment. The police themselves have expressions that indicate more, that as if they were saying to somebody, say, boss, am I doing all right? You know, that kind of thing. In other words, was Lansdale walking down right in front of the school book depository building to sort of reassure some people here, maybe his employees or somebody that's working for him? What's the significance of that? Well, of course, that happened to be my own interpretation. The men who had brought the pictures to me hadn't the slightest idea who it was. And I decided at that moment that what was needed next was a lot of research. So I got some very clear copies of those professional pictures. These pictures were taken by a professional news cameraman. I got clear picture. And I started mailing the picture to acquaintances of mine and acquaintances of Lansdale who knew him without any of my thoughts. I simply would send the picture and say, can you tell me what this looks like to you? This was taken shortly after the death of the president, and I wonder if this picture calls anything to mind to you. You'd be amazed to find that from senior people in the government, such as Lansdale was or such as I was at the time, I got immediate confirmation. That said Lansdale. Well, now, I don't know why he was in Dallas. I can't go into that. But it's astounding that this man, who was Assistant Secretary of Defense for Special Operations after General Graves Erskine retired, who was the man who had more or less almost single-handedly set up Diem as president of South Vietnam, who again almost single-handedly had set up President Magsaysay as the president of the Philippines, who was considered probably the most significant person in the U.S. military, U.S. government on the subject of counterinsurgency, civic action, special forces, Green Beret troops. He had written the books that the Green Berets used in their courses down at Fort Bragg. What could have been his role at that time? I had a very personal interest in that because only a month or two before that, Lansdale had met me in the halls of the Pentagon and said that he had arranged for me to go as a military escort officer with a VIP party to the South Pole. And it happened that I left for the South Pole on about November 10th or something like that, and that I was in New Zealand on the way back from the South Pole when I heard about President Kennedy being killed. Why Lansdale asked me to go to the South Pole, I have no idea. Or was there some connection between this role that he may have been playing in Dallas and the fact that he would just as soon I be out of town? And I reflected on that, especially when I began to realize that almost all of Kennedy's cabinet was out of town, that some 45 officials with the cabinet were also out of town in Honolulu and on their way to Tokyo. They were actually on their way to Tokyo when the president was killed. And over the years, I have made a study of how many people central to the inner workings of the secret government of this country had been moved out of Washington at that time. It's a very, very interesting subject. I wish I could answer it. I don't know how to answer it. I'm sure the picture is Lansdale. Others are sure it's Lansdale, and I have to leave it there.
Colonel Fletcher Prouty and General Victor Krulak both worked with General Edward Lansdale in the Pentagon. Both men identify him being in Dealey Plaza November 22nd, 1963. General Lansdale specialized in political psychological warfare operations and manipulation of governments. He worked for Allen Dulles, the director of Central Intelligence. Although his cover story title was Air Force Colonel and later General, he was always working for the CIA. The photo of him reveals deep involvement with certain members of the CIA in the planning, removal, cover story, and cover-up of the assassination of President Kennedy in Dallas on November 22, 1963. Planning and cover story for such manipulation of government personnel was Lansdale's forte. Documents shown here are available at www.prouty.org.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen. I urge you to research Colonel L. Fletcher Prouty. Go to prouty.org, prouty.org. That's Lena Senek's site. Tons of information there. Colonel Fletcher Prouty, he's no longer with us. I would have loved to have picked his brain. The guy was just a wealth of information and knowledge, especially from the first-hand perspective of being there. So go check out the website, Lena Senek's site, and you can learn more about Colonel L. Fletcher Prouty, prouty.org. And I have the clip if you want to listen to it again. It's up on federaljack.com. It's filed under U.S. News, or just type in JFK or JFK assassination, and it'll in the search bar, and it'll come up. And the title is Colonel L. Fletcher Prouty on Ed Lansdale being in Dealey Plaza on November 22nd, 1963. All right, we only have a few minutes left here, and there's a few things I want to go over. And by the way, I have to stop for a second. And during the time I was playing the audio and I was muted, I got a phone call because I am well connected. And I got a phone call, and I got a message that I'm supposed to send out to one of my nephews and my niece, Dylan and Jessica. I got a phone call from the dude in the red suit flying around in that sleigh, and he says he ain't going to stop at the house until you guys go to bed. You know the drill. And if you want your presents, you have to go to bed right now in order for him to come into the house and put the presents under the tree. That's the deal. And he said to leave him a couple cookies, too, because he's hungry. He's been working his butt off all night. So, message from the fat, jolly old elf in the red suit from me, passed to me, because I am your uncle and I have connections. So, he asked me to pass the message on to you. Get your two butts into bed. I love you both. You're not going to miss anything. Get into bed. In a few hours, you can get up and you can open up all your presents. All right? So go to sleep. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, the last few minutes here, I want to leave you all because I don't want to, we're constantly giving out negative information, and you know how I am. I try to leave things on a positive note. So I want to leave you all on a positive note. I want to leave you with something going into Christmas before I press that big red button and the 31 hours of commercial-free audio plays for you all. I want to leave you something empowering. I want to leave you with something positive. The reason all this is going on, the amping up of the police state, the constant push of the fear, the manipulation through the media, it's very simple. The powers that shouldn't be fear you. They fear your awakening and your evolution. And they're so afraid of that because it affects their very way of life that they will do anything in their power, and I mean anything, that they can do to stay in whatever they consider to be power, right? You know, even if it's a false premise of power. So they push out fear all the time, and they try to control people with fear. They fear your evolution and your true potential. That's why I always play that clip from Fight Club. They fear your true potential and the power you have within yourselves. You are all the solutions to your own problems and to the problems of this world. That is the truth. You all have inside of you infinite love. This isn't new agey, this is reality. Okay? You all have the power to change things. You don't have to look to an outside source, to a government, to a Superman type figure. You are the Superman type figure. Like Mark Passio and I have talked about when we broke down the Matrix. You are all Neo. I've said this before on air too. You are all Neo. If anything, I'm Morpheus. You are all the one. You all have the power. And these dirtbags that have their hands on the controls right now, they fear you. And that's why there's a police state. That's why there's FEMA camps. That's why there's martial law. That's why there's, military and cops and all this other garbage. They fear you. They fear your potential. So stop fearing. And to help you stop fearing, I'm going to read you the litany against fear really quick before we leave and sign off for the holiday. Really quick, the litany against fear. I must not fear. Fear is the mind killer. Fear is the little death that brings total obliteration. I will face my fear. I will permit it to pass over me and through me. And when it has gone past, I will turn the inner eye to see its path. Where the fear has gone, there will be nothing. Only I will remain. Ladies and gentlemen, do not buy into the fear that is pushed into your face on a daily basis. It is done so to control you, because when you are afraid, you are not thinking with your head. Your body is in fight or flight mode. You will not make rational decisions. We have learned this in the past already. Let's not be used like a marionette puppet. Don't allow yourself to be played. Remember, the reason they go through all of this is because at the end of the day, they fear you and your true potential. You are the solutions to the problems. As I've stated before, my new slogan, the solutions to our... Let me redo this. I want to get this right. The solutions to our problems are an inside job. I'll repeat that. The solutions to our problems are an inside job. One more time. The solutions to our problems are an inside job. Ladies and gentlemen, we're out of time. I'm out of here. Merry Christmas, Happy Festivus, Kwanzaa, whatever you celebrate. I'll see you all again on Wednesday. 3, 2, 1. I'm pushing the red button. I'm out of here.